So, those of you who I expect are using this course or are using this material for your study are likely to be far more comfortable with digital technology than we are, in people of my generation, who were brought in, as it were, kicking and screaming into this world. We were not really comfortable with it at first, and then gradually many of us, if not all of us, have made some sort of peace with the new dispensation, which is, after all, something which we are forced to do in order to survive in this new knowledge economy. That is something that I would like to tell you about. And that's why digital humanities is a subject which is essentially for you, and you will make much better use of it than we probably either did or will be able to do, simply because the computer is a far more familiar object in your lives than it was in mine when I was your age. Now, it's here that I would like to address, because opinion is often foisted on the young by the old. And there appears to be still the vestiges of an old, what should I say, a kind of old prejudice, that in some sense there is a difference between using printed books and reading something on the internet. Your parents may not quite understand that when you are sitting in front of a computer screen and actually studying and not doing something which they disapprove of, or actually reading something which is quite difficult. Now, it's this point that I would like to emphasize. It's not that one should deride older forms of scholarship or dismiss them outright. Of course, there are all kinds of scholarship, and this one point that I would like to make very strongly is that the transfer of knowledge from one state of being to another state of being is always incomplete. Particularly in a country like ours, where we are so dependent, and all of us use resources in our own languages, you will find naturally that the resources in Western European languages are far, far greater, far more extensive, far more encyclopedic than what is available in Indian languages. And so many of us will have to depend upon resources which are printed resources or even manuscript resources. Because simply, if you are working, say, on Rabindranath Tagore's letters, you will probably find that these have neither been digitized, nor even, in many cases, have they been printed. So if you were to do something, or if it's a project, you decided to look at Rabindranath's letters to somebody, then probably you would have to go and find where these letters are, and read these letters in Rabindranath's beautiful handwriting, and do something with them. So this is something that we have to, on a daily basis, contend with. That the transfers of knowledge from one domain to another are not even, are not, as it were, do not have a state of parity. You might find that the Western archive is far better represented in digital form than we can ever hope, at least in my lifetime. I cannot hope, even think, that the writers with whom I live by, great writers in Bangla or the few other languages which I can read, are equally available, are equally represented on the digital platform. It seems to me that one of the major thrusts of digital technology in our country, or digital humanities in our country, will be trying to make more and more of the literature, of the resources that exist in undigitized form available in digital form. And it's not just making photographs, and as we will study and get to know in the lectures that follow, that digitization is not, as it were, does not mean the same thing all the time. There are levels and stages of digitization. You can have a digital photograph. You can even have a digital photograph of a page of a book. You can read it in the same way you can read the page. But you can also have something which is searchable, which you can edit, which you can compare with other pages by using other digital tools. And this then is the true benefit of having digital texts, which will be dealt with in future segments of this course. So to conclude, what I'd like to draw your attention to is this, that different forms or different habits of academic study coexist, and in a country like ours, this mix of different kinds of habits is probably much greater than in more advanced economies where I suppose, I expect that there is much greater availability of digital resources, because it's the problems that we have to contend with in a country like India is with poor bandwidth, with uneven access. Access is one of the big terms that will figure in all discussions of digital technology, digital humanities. That it's all very well to say that let's digitize books, let's create digital copies or digital versions of existing material, but then how is a large body of people, a large number of people, students, researchers, ordinary viewers, listeners, readers, how are they going to access it? And who is going to control this access? How is this access going to be guaranteed? These are the questions which, if you like, are also come up in a course on digital humanities. It's not just the task of creating or the methods or means of creating or studying digital artifacts, but also meditating upon the problems which digital objects, the circulation of digital objects, or the limited circulation of digital objects. I'm sure that all of us have found that certain articles that we wanted to read or certain things cannot be accessed because they are locked. A song that we want to hear cannot be without the payment of a fee or money. So what is this? How are we going to think about this? These are other questions, I think, that will come up in the course of this series of talks and lectures that you will see and read. And I hope that you will find this not just of academic interest, but in some way helping you to understand the condition that you are in. This is why we have attempted to create a course like